Hey, let's talk about Hart's climate principles. So this is big picture. What do I think about? And the purpose of this is like, we hear this talk about climate and solar panels and electric cars, but can we please back up and talk about the big picture? So that's what this is about. Let me get to my place here. Okay, so I have how many principles here? I have 12 principles here. Let's see if I can get through them all in about 10 minutes. Number one principle for solving the problem of climate change is people first. People first. In America, what gets in the way of people? I'll tell you what gets in the way of putting people first in America, and it's ideology. Ideology keeps us from putting people first, and we've been taught ideology since we were knee-high to a grasshopper, and we need to say, stop the ideology. We're going to put people first. By ideology, I mean mainly two things. One is American exceptionalism, like we have all this moral authority to be at the head of a world empire. That's an ideology, and it gets in the way of us putting people first. Another thing that gets in the way of us putting people first is the ideology of the free market. The free market is an ideology. There's no such thing as a free market. Markets have rules. Markets have structure. Markets have guidelines. It's just a question of who put them in place. And when we talk about the free market, like it's this big thing, we're just talking about something that we've been taught. And we need to get away from what we've been taught. We need to rethink everything. We need to get away from ideology so we can put people first. When somebody comes at me with this or that climate solution, it's like, how do people fit into this? Show me an overall plan, an overall strategy where people come first. And if they can't do that, there's no reason for you or me to listen to them, because there's a whole lot of machinations in American public life, and people get squished amid all of the machinations. Number two, know the end game. Hart's principles. Number two, know the end game. What are we trying to get to? We want to solve the problem of climate change, if that's what we're talking about. And if people get offended because you question solar panels, people get offended because you question electric cars, people get offended because you question Bill Gates, then I'm saying, what's the end game? If you're supposed to be this big climate activist and you can't tell me the end game, and I'm not talking about you, my listener, I'm talking about people that really position themselves. Say hi to the train. People that position themselves to be climate activists, but they can't tell you what the end game is. Number three, prepare to solve the problem. What problem are we trying to solve? The problem is not how many electric cars can we get on the road. The problem is solving the problem of climate change. So we want to understand the problem and solve the problem. Who is talking about how to solve the problem? Scientists say this and scientists say that. Well, yeah, let's take into account what scientists say, but many scientists are ignoring, well, the strategies. I mean, scientists could tell you that the Pentagon is a big problem, but they're not talking about it. So, but it's up to us to prepare to solve the problem. Number four, take a holistic approach. Take a holistic approach. That means climate does not stand alone. Climate is part of like there are three problems that are related to one another. One is climate, one is desertification, and one is the loss of biodiversity. We're in the sixth great extinction event. And if somebody is proposing solutions to climate change and they can't tell you how they're going to solve the problem of desertification, they never even heard of that problem, never even thought about that. God. If they can't tell you how they're going to solve the problem of biodiversity loss, we are in the sixth great extinction. Talk to me about how you're going to solve the problem of biodiversity loss. And if People are positioning themselves as experts. They can't tell you how they're going to solve the problem of desertification or biodiversity loss. Then they can't tell you how they're going to solve the problem of climate change. They're just wasting your time. And I'm not trying to be better than anybody else, but I've been around and around and around the block with people who position themselves as climate experts, and they don't have a plan, they don't have a strategy, they don't have an understanding of the problem. They just want to sell you solar panels and electric cars. Number 5, prioritize. What are we going to do first? Okay, solar panels and electric cars, and then we'll talk. It's like solar panels and electric cars and Tesla batteries and windmills. And how's that a priority? How does that fit into the priorities? I have my concept of priorities, but if somebody's positioning themselves as a climate expert and they can't talk to you about what comes first and what comes next, I tell you, for me, what comes first, it'll come on further down the list, but we have to confront power. We have to deal with this concentration of wealth, because power is money, and concentrations of wealth take away our democracy. And so that's a priority for me. Dealing with war is a priority. Changing our transportation system is a priority, and changing our food system is a priority. Those things are my priorities. So if somebody's supposed to be a climate expert, what are their priorities? And if they don't have any, run the other way. Number 6, don't shrink from confronting the powerful. There are people, especially when you think of climate activists, you think of Democrats. Democrats almost categorically worship Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos. And those that don't worship these people, they at least tolerate them. They don't understand how billions and billions of dollars is a problem. Billions of dollars in the hands of one person is a problem. It's inherently anti-democratic. And there are people that want to play this game of Democrats and Republicans like it's cowboys and Indians or something. And Democrats versus Republicans is not, it doesn't matter who wins or who loses that fight, because both of them are on the side of the very powerful. And you have climate activists who categorically are not willing to confront the powerful on the local level, the state level, or the federal level. Number 7 of Hart's climate principles: know that we need to change our relationship with the powerful. I'm just going to, we need to change our relationship. That's a nice way of saying that the powerful need to not be powerful anymore. One person, one vote doesn't mean Jeff Bezos has 150 billion and gets to flood the Congress with his money, or gets to buy up all of the means of production. So we need to change our relationship with the powerful. We need to change our relationship with power. Number 8, concentrated wealth is anti-democratic. I've already talked enough about that. Let's go on. Number 9, don't blame the powerless, and don't blame human nature. Don't blame, if you're a Democrat, don't blame Trump voters. If you're, blaming Trump voters is the same type of empty bigotry that, it's something akin to racial bigotry, because it's a way of shifting blame, and it's a way of stereotyping and categorizing. But don't blame the powerless. Don't blame people who have no money and no power. If you want to know why we have problems, blame the powerful, because they're the ones that have the power to set things up, and they're the ones that have the power to rearrange things. And if they don't, it's their fault. It's not the fault of the powerless. Number 10, stop coddling powerful Democrats. Stop apologizing for Democrats. Stop apologizing for powerful Democrats. Democrats have been trained to blame Republicans and blame Trump. And they think that anytime you criticize their precious party, then you're being a Trump lover. That's the craziest thing ever. The Democrats in Congress, they're not giving you a $15 minimum wage. They're not giving you Medicare for all. They're not reducing the defense budget. They just raised the defense budget. Stop coddling powerful Democrats. Number 11, follow the money. If you want to know what the problems are, follow the money and stop allowing Democrats to be in bed with money. I know I'm talking about Democrats a lot. I just think a misunderstanding of that party is one of the major problems in American political life, and therefore it's one of the major problems with solving the problem of climate change. It's a major a misunderstanding, a misapprehension of what the Democratic Party actually is a major obstacle in fighting climate change, because this Biden administration is just dragging its heels, taking its own time, and it's not making serious efforts to solve the problem. They don't even have a decent plan. I've read through Biden's climate plan, and it's just a concatenation of pork barrel deals and empty rhetoric. Number 12, we need to move to an economy of care. We have an economy of production where we build a lot of things, we make a lot of things, and we push a lot of things, and we build a lot of roads, and we build a lot of buildings, and that all that production is part of the problem. We need to produce a lot less. We need to move from an economy of production to an economy of care, which brings us back to the first principle: people first. Let's care for people, care for the natural environment, and let's care for our vital systems like healthcare, education, transportation. So people first, and let's move to an economy of care. If you pay somebody to care for an elderly person, then they have money to put that back into the economy. If you pay somebody to care for students, then they have money that they can put back into the economy. We can have an entire economy driven by care instead of this illusion that production is going to get us somewhere. Thank you for listening.